Hello everyone, welcome to episode number 44 with Asha Nehemiah. She's out with a triple treat for her readers, one chapter book and two picture books. Hi Asha.
Hi Shamala, and thank you for having me on Kahani Takbak.
Thank you for coming. So let's start talking about the first book from Duckbill.
Okay, so here it is. This is the book from Duckbill. It's part of the Hook book series. It's called Wet Paint, and this is actually my second book in the series. The first one was Grand Chapati Contest. And in this book also, I have collaborated with a very favorite illustrator of mine, Chetan Sharma. So would you like me to say a little bit about the series, Shamla?
Something about the book, just a cue about what the book is all about.
Okay, so the book is for young readers who are just beginning to start reading independently. Maybe initially their parents could read it to them. And then after that, the way the series has been structured is they will start reading it independently on their own. So this book is set in the Nilgiris. I didn't give the location a particular name because I knew the children would go looking for the hospital which is mentioned in the book. So there is a character, a doctor, who has won a big award for her work, a cash award. So she wants to build a hospital for the people in the Nilgiris. So she builds this lovely, small but modern hospital, and she gets her nephew, an artist from the big city, who looks suspiciously like the illustrator of the book. Yes. And she gets him to paint a mural on the outer wall. The wall is prepared beautifully, but before Aman, the artist, can come to paint it, something terrible happens to the wall. There's just completely damaged. So what does he and the other two main characters are Paru, a little girl, and her father, Sevana, who is the mason who plasters the wall. So what do Aman and Paru and Sevana do to save the situation? So that's what makes up the story of Wet Paint.
So what made you choose Nilgiris as a setting for this book?
So in this book, what happened? I'm very familiar with the Nilgiris. I studied briefly there. Then both my children studied there. So I used to visit the Nilgiris 3 to 4 times a year for over 10 years. So I'm very familiar with that area. And what happens there, like in any small town in India, when some activity, big activity is happening, everybody turns up to watch. I mean, even if you get a flat tire on the road, you will have the little shepherds with their goats, you will have the man taking his ducks, everybody will come to watch the maza. So because I wanted to have a gathering of people while the wall is being painted, I thought, what better place? And also in the Nilgiris, you have the hills, of course. So if you have a hospital up on one hill, the mural on the wall can be seen over many hills, no? Because that is the way the geography of the place is. So that's why I set it. So it is quite intrinsic, it's organic to the story. It's not that I just took a story and I set it in the Nilgiris. It kind of grew together, the story idea and the venue.
This is your second collaboration with Chetan, and he's done a fab job with the Grand Chapati Contest. And even here, he's done his, I always love his illustrations. They're so cheerful. There is a humor element out there, and they're just so lively and lovable characters. So did you work closely with him, or is he just receives the text and he's in sync with your thoughts to deliver what is needed?
He is, in fact, let me just show you one spread, this is all the people in the Nilgiris, the buffaloes, the people, and he is very in sync, you don't have to. I did, of course, send him some references I wasn't sure if he had visited the Nilgiris, so I sent him some references, but he's so in tune. For instance, you never have to tell him, in a country like ours, which is so diverse and everybody looks so diverse, you never have to tell him, please show the diversity. So he will just do all those things. I think he's very experienced. And for instance, there's this other lovely illustration, just shows diverse people. He'll always include a little cat or a little dog. With children, he loves animals, but children find this so endearing. So, and of course, I have to thank my editor, Shayoni, who was the go-between and, passing the messages to and fro. But Chetan, I think what you said, Shamla, is absolutely right. You look at his illustrations, you'll end up smiling. No, there's that quality about them.
So, what can you tell us about the public art? A mural is a piece of public art. You don't have to pay an entry fee, and it can be enjoyed by everyone who passes by. So, do you think we need more public spaces for art where everyone can enjoy? I think it's also stress buster, just not enjoying the beauty, but just to appreciate tiny nuances of a certain culture.
Absolutely. In fact, there's been quite a revived interest in murals. Like here in Bangalore, where I live, I think it was Malleshwaram, no? Where there's many artists, including some very well-known artists, got together to beautify the place and paint their original art on the wall. So initially, actually, I had thought of this book as something happening on a freshly cemented floor. And then I started seeing all this mural art. There's also this artist called Sayan Mukherjee. I don't know whether you've ever seen. He does a lot. He does children's book illustrations, and he's painting murals in Calcutta and all over the place, huge murals. And so I thought, why not make it a mural? This will be even more interesting. And in the book, what happens, the main character wants a mural because she wants everywhere to see from miles around her dream of this health, this hospital providing health. So it all kind of tied together. I think mural art is just a wonderful way to brighten a community space.
And this, a national movement has started. It's happening in a whole lot of metros, but also in tier 2, tier 3 cities.
Yes,
whether you're just passing by or you're stopping at a traffic signal, it's just nice to look at something so colorful and engaging, right?
Absolutely. And what an act of generosity of the artists, because I've seen some really well-known artists putting their original art, because a mural is not permanent in the way like a canvas is. It is weathered and things happen to it. And so I always admire the artists who create murals.
I think that's an interesting point you have quoted, that they have been generous with their original art. It doesn't take much, but then it still makes a difference, for everyone to enjoy somebody's art, knowing that it is a piece of history being recorded in itself, right? So would you like to talk about 2 picture books from Eklavya? I'm so glad, it's like, what do you say? It's like the post-pandemic effect for me. When I see these 2 books, listen to Appa and Amma's journey. It's like literally you're telling people, move, get out of your house, celebrate life, and meet people, old and new, familiar and unfamiliar. So what did these 2 books mean to you? What do these 2 books mean to you?
Yes, so actually these books, I did write them, and actually all 3 books, I wrote them during pandemic. And I thought it would have a staggered publishing schedule. But as it so happened, they all came out within a month of each other. So these 2 books, Listen to Appa and Amma's Journey, I've always been wanting to write something for the earliest readers, literally those who are in primary schools. And I was looking at my main audience for this, as you know, children studying in government schools, and I was hoping that governments and libraries would buy multiple copies for the children. So I approached Eklavya because I know they have this kind of reach. And just prior to that, I had attended a workshop conducted by Room to Read on how to write books for really the earliest readers, where both text and picture are very important. So these books are like between 100 and 200 words. That's it, with lots of very little text and lots of lovely bright illustrations. No, so there is in this character like me, you know, she's always rushing around doing things and packing her bag last minute. And one day she's just late for the train. So she tells her children, help me pack my bag. So she will say things like, give me the blue one that goes in water. So the children give her multiple blue ones which go in water. Then she says, give me the red one I need for the night. They give her multiple red ones. And it's only when she's in the train, she realizes that not only have two key items been left behind, but her dinner has also been left behind. But because she's on the train, she makes friends and they all enjoy there. So actually, both of these books are out in Hindi as well.
Wow. Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
Mama Ka Safar. Right. How lovely.
Yes.
Um,
And then listen to Appa is, you know, a typical father. He's going for a walk to visit his mother, and the little girl says, can I come along with you? So the mother says, yes, you can go along, but make sure you listen to Appa. Do everything he tells you and don't get your clothes dirty. So this little girl does everything. Appa will say, don't let go of my hand, hold my hand tightly. So he will, she will hold his hand tightly, and they will end up bumping into a lamppost, and Appa will end up getting dirty. Then he will tell her, don't talk so loudly, talk softly. So what she does is she says, Appa, look out. And just then the milkman with his cycle bumps into Appa. So it all happens like that. And finally, they end up, both of them getting, though this little girl, Kala, is listening to Appa, she ends up getting dirty. And Appa ends up getting even more dirty than her. He gets fully spattered with mud. So it's a very simple, but there's a full story. Even though it's so few words, 110 words, there is a complete story in it. So I just wanted to write a very fun story. But after I completed the story, I realized so many ways in which the story can be used in communities and classrooms.
I think it's lovely that you managed to tell a story in 100 words. It's not easy. And that is why, because there are minimal words, but the text is heavily dependent on the illustrations to capture the humor. Both the books.
Absolutely.
And I think, be it Subhashri Mathur or Barkha Lohia, both of them do an awesome job of illustrating these books. There's so much of movement captured, right?
Absolutely. They've done a wonderful job. And I must mention that Eklavya has used an art director for both the books.
Oh.
For this one, it was Kanak Shashi. So this book has been illustrated by Barkha Lohia. And this one is Ishita, was the art director. And I think definitely, you have the editor, of course, who's looking at the text and the whole picture of the book. And you have these wonderful illustrators. But I think the art director also did add, I don't know how to quantify it or define it, but there is something that she's added to the way it's designed. And they were so open, like for instance, in Listen to Appa, they wanted to have the last page as a double spread. So I said, no, please, can we have it as a standalone page? Because certain things get revealed here. So I didn't want it to be, as part of a double spread. So she thought about it, the art director, and said, yes, what you're saying is right. We'll move it around. So I think I was really fortunate to have this team of Vinata as my editor, and then the two art directors and two wonderful illustrators.
What I liked about listen to Appa, is the ponytail.
Yes.
Fathers, I've not seen fathers with ponytails with the bright red and white scrunchie. The
Yes.
characterization has been done so beautifully by Subhashri.
She's really done it so well. And this is entirely her own interpretation of Appa. So when it came to me, the character sketch, I was for a minute taken aback, but I was also thrilled because I know that a lot of their books go into government libraries and primary schools. And I said, why not? Because nowadays you see people in smaller towns also. I think with movies and TV, fashion has become a great leveler. Everybody wears, fashionable hairstyles. So I was really delighted when she gave Appa this look.
So, what else can you tell about Amma's journey? It's like, too much of mischief happening again. it's highly dependent on the children to make all the goof up.
Yes. And there's just look, this is the chaotic scene when they're helping
Yes.
her pack.
Uh,
And I think, as happens with a lot of books, we set out to create it in one way, thinking, I want this to be completely fun. I want the children to be laughing a lot. But when you finally look through it, there are so many things about shape and color and size. So she just says, can you find me the blue ones that can go in water? And they're putting in all these absurd things, blue things that go in water. So it's like a great deal of fun. But I think it also, like all books for children, it just naturally lends itself. But I think the fact that we set out to have fun and that the publisher was very encouraging of it, it gave the whole book a aura of, just let's sit back, laugh, and enjoy ourselves. And I feel, when children are just learning to read, the task of reading itself is actually calls for so many different skills. So I feel the content of the book should be just absolutely fun. Because if you expect them to read also and then learn some fun scientific facts or practice their multiplication, there's too much going on for this young child who just. So I feel that the focus when you want them to read is to give them very fun content. That's my way of creating books for young children. And you need books of all kinds, Shamla. You need different books. So
humor has been an integral part of all your books. So when you sit down to write a story, does that come naturally, or do you say, no, this is a story, I have to find ways to sprinkle humor all over it?
I think it does come naturally. I have never really thought about it. But I must tell you that I'm forever looking out for funny situations that I can put in books. So whenever something funny happens, I do make a note of it. Somebody who's dressed in a way that makes you smile, somebody who talks in a particular way. And then I do, think, okay, this book will be a good place to put this in, And then, of course, some new funny situations occur to me depending on the book.
So how many years has it been? How long have you been writing picture books? Do you see a difference between the time you started out and now?
Yes, I can see a huge difference. When I started writing, which was over 20 years ago, over 25 years ago, actually, what we call picture books now were really illustrated storybooks. Like if you take my early CBT books like Wedding Clothes or Granny's Sari, they call these picture books, but these are really illustrated stories. They work very well, even if I read it aloud without the pictures. I mean, fairly well, let me say. It is not absolutely essential to have the picture to get the meaning. So there is a lot of explanation which I have done which I would not do today, because today the text and the pictures, they take equal share in the narrative. So I would say, he wore a red sweater and this, I wouldn't do that now. Whereas with these books, you take away the pictures, the text absolutely falls flat on its face. So that's one difference. And the other difference is we never had very much interaction with the illustrator or even our editor. I think my early editors, I met them years afterwards. Whereas now, even if I don't meet them, I've probably spoken to them on Zoom, we have interacted, and there's a lot more communication thanks to email. When I started writing, I used to send a hard copy by registered post. Now, communication is fast and we interact much more. And I think that has definitely led to a much better quality of books being created. And especially, I think now there are so many wonderful illustrators, because there are lots more courses for illustrators and animators. It's become a thing. So illustrators are the ones who are experimenting, they're pushing the boundaries, and that has also led to a real facelift for the kind of books we publish in India.
What about the themes? Do you think editors are more open to newer themes now?
Yes, definitely. Earlier, when I first started writing, it was a lot of retelling of folk tales, fables, mythology, with a very strong focus on didactic and morals, and they wanted to see what the moral of the story was. So when at that time I started writing fun stories, it was like a breakaway. Now it's no longer like that. There's so many people who are doing humor excellently. There are people doing so many wonderful themes. I think editors are open. Readers also, schools look for books with strong themes and books dealing with issues. Here is where we have to become a little careful, in that we maintain the balance between entertainment, dealing with an issue, characterization, all of that, and don't allow the issue to become the main focus of the book. The main focus of the book should still be the reader's enjoyment of the book.
What about diversity? Nowadays, it has become like a checklist that every book should have diverse characters. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, putting pressure, I think more illustrators are under more pressure right now, that you should have diverse characters. And even if I've heard cases where even if the author does not have an initial list of diverse characters, the editor kinds of steps and say, hey, can we have this character? Can we have that character? And kind of literally things are forced into a narrative which was not planned earlier by the author.
I agree with you, Shamala. Though many people have told me just showing a diverse range of characters, it does do something to a child, like especially if you show a character who looks like the child or belongs to that, they say, and they probably have some kind of evidence to back it. But I feel that the way Chetan does it is he shows diverse characters, but that those characters are those you will find in that situation. He does it so well because he shows, in fact, in Wet Paint, there is a scene where he has a tourist who absolutely looks like he is not even from India. And this is the kind of character you will find in the Nilgiris, no? Because they have so many, I'm not able to find the
You have
exact...
backpackers, yeah, just stepping in. And
so you have backpackers. So
totally clueless.
Yes.
What's happening?
And sometimes when I have seen books where I will see a person, say with a disability or something, and it's not really fitting into that scene, I sometimes wonder to myself, how much of this was organically part of the vision and how much of it might have been an afterthought, it's very hard to say. So I think, in India, there is so much of diversity that if you just naturally show life as it is, you will manage to get diversity.
So any more new books this year? Any more surprises for surprise treats for your readers?
No, Shamala, I am working on something, but typically from the time I'm working on a manuscript, it takes a couple of years for it to be published, which is why I had hoped that these books would be staggered, but then they all just ended up being published within a month of each other.
Nice. So before we leave, we're running short of time. Could you quickly tell our readers what both these books are all about?
So both these books are just fun books. One is Amma Going on a Journey. So, and this is a little girl taking a walk with Appa. I would say they're very good for, even for very young children, 3 to 4 years, who are not yet begun to really identify words, because the story is absolutely something which they can comprehend. And I think children never tire of their books. You will see a child who will have a board book, and sometimes at the age of 3, they will still pick up the board book with pictures and they will want to read it. So I'm hoping that these books will be like that. The children first look at the pictures, listen to the stories, and then when they're able to read, there's a certain familiarity and they will start reading it.
Both the books are a visual treat, and I'm really glad you wrote. So before we go, I have one question about Amma's journey. Towards the end, the kids are unaccompanied in the zoo.
Yes, they are. I know that. I think I left that to the illustrator. And in fact, once when I was reading this book to my grandson, he said, "But where is Appa in all of this?" So had I think we all realized it, we would have shown a little small visual of, so you have really you and my grandson both have found that at once.
No, for me, it was like, are kids allowed alone? I think
you have to imagine Appa in the background.
Yeah. He could be anywhere. He could have gone to buy snacks, or he would be petting the elephant,
Yes.
or anything. Yeah.
But yes, you are right. It would have been nice to just show a small hint of Appa.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Asha. Lovely talking to you, and all the best. Looking forward to reading the rest of it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for asking me to be on your show, Shamala.